All right, well, the final speech, not. And here you thought that the president's long speech on health care last week in St. Louis was it on health care from the president, because the White House all but promised it would be it on health care from the president, that from here he was just going to focus on twisting some votes, maybe some arms, but not making speeches. Turns out his final speech was a lot like the rock band Who's final concert. Not quite final, maybe not quite ever. Even though a lot of these guys, if you look at them, they should have hung it up a long time ago. But I digress. The president raising the health care stakes once again in Ohio today, even though every time he mentions it, his poll numbers drop by the day. My Fox Biz All-Stars say that there is no stopping this guy. I want to welcome Jonathan Hoenig and Cody Willard, Mike Norman, and Lizzie McDonald. Liz, so he can't let go. He's going to keep pushing.
Yeah, he's going to keep pushing. And, you know, the hard sell is, began ever since the president said, the health care reform bill will not add one dime to the deficit. Well, it's going to add a whole lot of dimes to the deficit. So he was probably right on that count.
Says it won't.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, because it's going to load a lot of those 30 million uninsured. Yes, if I can finish, they're going to load a lot of the uninsured into the Medicaid program, which adds a lot to the deficit. And what we're dealing with is an Enron-style kind of bill that really nobody can read and nobody really can understand.
Well, you might be right, but Cody, I still say it's going to pass.
Something's going to pass. The Dems have basically made it clear that they are going to use any parliamentary or any backward door procedure they can come up with or find that can get something through so that they can at least save some face on this. Something's going to get passed.
They don't have to save any face. They're going to win. W, big W.
No, every single incumbent who voted for any stimulus or TARP or bailouts are out. Healthcare isn't even
They could be executed.
Americans
it doesn't matter. They're going to get it. Mike Norton, they're going to get it. I don't know what happens to them in November, but they're going to get it.
Well, they're going to get it, but it's still very unpopular with the American public. And I think that's the reason why he's out there again, because they are close and it looks like it's going to happen. But he is trying to, build some support in the electorate. And, that was the reason for the speech, because it is an unpopular thing.
Jonathan?
Yeah, another speech, right? I mean, the president in the last year has given 39 speeches, Neil, on health care. Most recently, they've been filled with really venomous rhetoric towards the health insurance companies. I can't remember any sitting president unleashing just such tireless hatred, animosity for any industry. Interesting, though, as we've pointed out, he hasn't sealed the deal, right? He's got widespread opposition, even from within his own party, even Dennis Kucinich. My sense is that, although people probably hate the health insurance companies...
Dennis Kucinich is against it because it's not generous enough, not because...
And is he truly a Democrat? Is he truly... He's one of those guys that's sort of out there. I mean, I was going to make another The Who reference. Can I do that?
Okay, what do you think?
It's more like a never-ending concert by Cher, is what you're trying to say, where it's not brought to. Well, the thing is
that... What's wrong with a never-ending concert by Cher?
I don't have a problem with that. I was trying to get your Who analogy, but Scott Brown. Remember, he won in a very liberal Barney Frank district. So wouldn't that be a shot across the bow? Wouldn't the White House and the Democrats in Congress be?
Well, no, Mike. What I've heard is just the opposite. That they look at this as stand for this because we're going to go down anyway. We lessen our chances of going down miserably if we approve this. So literally, that's the logic. Now, that's it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's a kind of a twisted logic, but you're right. That is the logic. I mean, they see, it's come to the end game now, and it's going to happen. So they're going for it grudgingly, and I think they're trying to play up that angle that this is not what we want. It's going to happen, but this is a bad bill.
And
Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm going to
And their logic is not necessarily to improve health care, but to kill the free market in health care. I mean, the growth in government involvement in health care, we know it's been incremental even since the mid-'60s with the growth of entitlement programs. So I think that the Democrats probably consider any growth in entitlement programs to be a win because it keeps building and building the entitlement states.
Neil, it's interesting. The Dems are acting like they've run out of time. Meanwhile, Oregon and Indiana, all sorts of states are doing their own pilot tests of their own forms of health reform.
And Virginia might reject this, saying that it's states' rights rule.
Right.
Well, and who's better, who's best? If you actually boil it down, the Republicans also expanded Medicare and Medicaid. Even under Reagan, the Republicans were expanding entitlement programs. So I think that's what it comes down to. It's not like the American public are necessarily against entitlement programs in health care. They are against entitlement programs for corporate America.
Yeah, but,
we can pretend that health care is the deciding issue coming up in 2012, but
I could quickly answer what Jonathan was saying, free market reforms are being tested at the state level. A la carte pricing, where you can pick and choose the health insurance plans that would cover your needs. You know, health insurance accounts being tested in Indiana. Free market reforms that are not given the time in D.C. or any attention in D.C. to play out, to see if this is the way to go.
But Mike Norman, if they get their way on this, the bottom line is that even in defeat, which a lot of folks would lose their seats in November, they have changed for a generation a new big deal government that would be very hard for Republicans to unravel, at least immediately.
Yeah, it's not going to be unraveled, and most likely we'll see amendments to it. It'll be added upon.
That's a victory.
We have to see how it works. I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to ultimately play out.
I do. They're going to win.
The Republican-Democrat regime will win again.
All right, real quick final take on this, Johnny?
Well, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it gives more control to government. And I think although people are, you know, upset with business, upset with health insurance companies, they're even more distrustful that government, who we know can't run the train, a post office, can manage health care in this country.
Mobile.
Man, oh, man.